Okay, my we are covered mobile. Yeah, you made the opportunity. Hope fulfilled. Hope fulfilled. Father, is also our YouTube channel, name. So if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as we, endeavor to, dedicate this particular um, channel to the study of eschatology or doctrine of the last times. You can do so by uh, going to the YouTube and searching for fulfilled, hope fulfilled, and you can subscribe to the channel so that whenever we upload or publish a new video, you may have the opportunity to you know um, to watch it. Or you can also after subscription, you can click on the bell so that whenever there's a new video, you may be notified so that you can tend to it and watch it. Anyway, um we are in a series of a video B yeah dedicated to First Corinthians chapter 15 verse 24, with regards to the end, the delivery of the kingdom, and then the defeating of Christ's enemy. The end, in fact, we have made three, or this is the, let me say, this is the third video. So we've already published two videos, in connection with this text, and this is the third video. So it's a successive videos. It's a successive video. So if you want to have a full understanding, as to what we are trying to demonstrate here, it will be imperative or necessary for you to check on the previous video so that you may have a fuller understanding of what you are trying to the point we are trying to make. Anyway, so Hope Fulfilled is the YouTube channel name. Hope Fulfilled. Yeah, so I really believe that any one of you can whoever is interested can subscribe to it, or perhaps you can watch them. Sometimes we try to publish or we upload on various platform on Facebook, the videos that we make, so that whoever is interested can watch it and appreciate it and leave a comment, of which we will surely uh, deal with it. Anyway, so in our previous videos we tried to in the last video we demonstrated that the paradidomai, or the paradidomi, that is the deliver of the kingdom, does not mean abdication of Christ's reign. As a matter of fact, the reign of Christ, it's a continuum reign, or it's a contiguous reign, that it has no end, because the kingdom in which he is going to reign in it has no end. If you read Daniel chapter 7, verse 18 and verse 27, it's going to tell you that the kingdom, and as well as Isaiah chapter 9, verse 7, it says that of the increase of his government, there's no end. You understand? And within this kingdom are the faithful to praise Christ, okay, endlessly. That is forever, according to Ephesians chapter 3, verse 21. So you can't have an end in an age or in a kingdom which has no end. Okay, so we shall demonstrate, some of these things. So the end there, the end there, the end there, uh, like I in our first video, we dealt with the end, okay, and the second one we dealt with the deliver, the paradidomai, the deliver. So we demonstrated to you that you cannot, the reign of Christ, in His kingdom, has no end. You understand? So, as a matter of fact, it continues forever. If you read Revelation chapter, I believe 21, 24, it says that the gate to the kingdom is forever opened. It is not, it will never be shut. And a lot of people are, trekking. A lot of people are, uh, making their way into the kingdom. So the gate will never be shut. It has once been opened, and a lot of people are, going into the kingdom. So all these things demonstrate that indeed, the delivery of the kingdom is not abdication of Christ's reign. If you read First Corinthians chapter 11 verse 23, it said that what I received from the Lord, that is was spoken in the context of the Lord's Supper, that I received from Christ, that which I also delivered to you. So does that mean that Paul abdicated, or in other words, Paul stopped participating or partaking of the Lord's Supper, the Lord's Supper or the Holy Eucharist? No, he continued. So the delivery of the paradidomai of the Lord's Supper to the church at Corinth does not, cease Paul's, participation of the Lord's Supper. Again, Paul said in First Corinthians chapter 11, verse 2, that I also delivered this tradition to you, of which you have intently, followed. Paul did not, stop uh, stop with the gospel. continuing in the gospel. He did not stop once he delivered that tradition to them. No, because First Timothy chapter 4, verse 7 and 8, Paul said, "What I have continued with this gospel up to this time." Okay, that's the time, the time he was about to depart from this mortal world. Okay, so it is not abdication. Okay, neither does it deny the father, taking the kingdom. But then it's both of them, as I demonstrated in the previous video, both of them are now going to reign together. He said that while heaven opened, then I saw nothing but the lamp and the God and the lamb. So now we have God and the lamb in the new heaven or in the new Jerusalem. That is the church now reigning together. That is the time they became all and in all God, all inclusive God. Okay, now at this juncture in the new heaven or in the kingdom or in the church of Christ, there's no, there's no God for limited to the Gentiles, no God limited to the Jewish, but through him we have all been made one. If you read Ephesians chapter 2, I believe said that he has broken down that dividing wall of separation. If you look at the Jerusalem temple, one wall was intentionally constructed so that the Jewish and the Gentiles will not have one uh, court, or have one court to worship together. But that is the enmity, that stood against that enmity was broken, okay, by the power of Christ, so that now there's no barrier, so that they have come together. They have come together as one person in one new man, that is Christ. Anyway, so that is not what we are doing today. But today we're also going to continue to be looking at such some parallel verses or chapters, okay, which also affirm the continuity of reign of Christ in the in his kingdom. So we are going to open our Bible to the book of Matthew, Matthew chapter 25 verse 31. See, whenever we get to this particular text, a lot of people believe that, well, that text is actually talking about uh, Christ quitting reigning, or quitting his reign, after he returns. Of course, now this text specifically deals with reign of Christ, after after the parousia. See, the parousia of Christ will crown Christ as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. You understand? Not the pre-parousia reign. Okay, because he must first of all defeat all his enemies. Now, just like those boxers, the Bukum Banku and whatever, these boxers, for them to be remain undisputed heavyweight, champion, they must defeat all their enemies. And once all their enemies have been defeated, it does not mean they abdicate their reign. No, they continue reigning as undisputable, fighter. So that is how it is. So for Christ to have that full confidence, or that full power of reigning, he must first of all defeat all his enemy. He will now then be crowned as Lord of Lord and Kings of Kings, whose governance no one can take it from him. So we have to understand the reign of Christ in his glory from this perspective. Anyway, so now so it's not about abdication of his reign. It's rather continuation of his reign. Now, if you read Matthew chapter 25 verse 31, it says that now when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the holy angels with him, then he will sit on his throne of his glory. You understand? So so he must be glorified. You see, he must come now. At this juncture, it is necessary, for him to first of all defeat his enemies, okay, and to be, for him to be sit on his throne in that glorious, mood or moment. You understand? So this is Christ, reigning first, at his ascension. Okay, he reigned till all his enemies were defeated in AD 70. You understand, including death. That is the law related death. Okay, so once all these things, all these entities have been defeated, he can now reign as an undisputed, as a sovereign Lord. You understand? So that is the essence of the coming of Christ in his glory, and the sitting of Christ on his throne. So he did not quit reigning. You understand? He will come with his angel, and he will sit on the throne of his glory. You understand? So he didn't say he will quit reigning. Okay, that so at that this is the time at this time this is the time of the consummation of his reign. Okay, at which time all his enemies will be brought under his feet. You understand? If you remember this text of Roman chapter 16 verse I believe 20, it said that God the Lord of peace is going to crush Satan, in a while, in a short while, he's going to crush the enemies, under your feet. There's the quote for this is a quote from Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. You understand? So he has to defeat his enemies, okay, to be able to now enjoy or to now reign in the glory of the conquering of his enemies. You understand? Romans chapter 8, verse 37, Paul said that in spite of all these things, we are more than conquerors. You understand? So before the parousia, before the second coming of Christ, in AD 70 against Jerusalem, he was reigning. He was reigning. He was reigning. Okay. But that reigning was not made manifest, to mankind, because the enemies were still down there, okay, and they must be defeated, okay, by the gospel and the kingdom. If you read Revelation chapter 11, verse 8, I believe, Revelation chapter number 11, Revelation chapter number 11, verse 8, I believe. Let me see. Verse 5. Okay, anyway, I believe it's Revelation chapter, whereby we have the enemies being, defeated by the kingdom. Okay, so that is that. So now in the, before this, before the ascension, before the, before the parousia, the second coming of Christ, which we believe that it occurred in AD 70, Christ was still reigning. He sat at the right hand side of, God. He will continue to reign until all his enemies have been made under, underfoot. All right. So, like I was saying, that is that the kingdom, defeated all his enemies. That is the time when Christ, returned in his glory, so that he can now, reign in the glory of the conquering, of all his enemies. So he was reigning. That is, he was reigning, but it will be made manifest to the world after all his enemies have been what, defeated. So at this time, reigning of Christ, with his angels in his glory on the throne, indicates that the reign of Christ has no end. Okay, but it rather continue forever. You understand? So a lot of people believe that, judging from, and this is Matthew chapter 25 verse 31 is a direct quote, it has a direct connection with First Corinthians chapter 50 verse 24, because it also talks about, the end, and secondly, um, the delivery of the kingdom to the Father, which we have explained that does not mean abdication, as well as, uh, on condition that all his enemies are defeated. You understand? All his enemies are defeated. So it is the what we call the already but not yet. So Christ was reigning at the right hand side of the Father while his enemies were being conquered. But on the day of AD 70, all his enemies, specifically the unbelieving Jewish and those who persecuted the church in AD 70, so in the first century, were defeated. Were defeated at the parousia of Christ. In fact, Christ used, the Roman army to execute his judgment, against the unbelieving Jewish. What we call the theophany, the manifestation of Christ through historical events. So he is not going to come physically, but he's going to use his, instrument as he's going to use people as his instrument of judgment against those who persecuted the church. You understand? So it's like that reign. Now he came with his angel, okay, to execute, this judgment against his enemies. Then from then, or from that time onwards, he has been reigning, okay, and this reign has no end. If you look at, the prophecies about the prophecies, or a prophecy about the church, with regards to Daniel chapter 2, it says that, that stone that struck that image into pieces, um, settled down and arose, okay, to fill the entire earth, okay, and it has no end. It would that rock will never be destroyed, okay. So it tells you the reign of Christ. Now that will be consummated at the defeat of the last, the last image, the clay and the sun, okay, Roman Empire and the and Judaism. You understand? So that is when the reign of Christ, will actually be manifested or be made known to man. You understand? So Christ, the reign of Christ with the kingdom, with the saints and with the angels has no end. It abides forever and it continues. It continues forever. So it was the case in the first century. Paul said, "Well, in spite of all this thing, we are more than conquerors." You understand? They were why? Because see, the battle there was not a physical battle. If you read Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12 following, they were not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principality. Those who were in the helm of affairs in Judah, in Israel, in the first century, they were the one whom they were struggling with. But it was a physical, you know, battle because they were fighting against, the promulgation of the gospel, or the spread of the gospel, or the publishing of the gospel in the entire Roman, kingdom. They resisted, the gospel. So they were wrestling against this. First Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4, Paul said that, well, we are not, fighting against this flesh and blood, because our instrument of war, okay, or our weapon of war is not that which is made by man, but it is what spiritual, spiritual armament, okay, which has capacity to destroy every fortress that raises itself against them. So they were, with the help of the spirit, indwelling in them, they were able to overcome all their enemies. But eventually the eventual enemy is okay. The eventual enemy was dead, and this death is not physical death as people perceive it to be. Okay, First Corinthians um, uh, chapter 15, 20, 25, 26. Okay, but it was rather spiritual, warfare. Okay, it was a spiritual death, okay, which emanated from the law. If you read the First Corinthians chapter 15, verse 26, it's going to tell you, okay, it's going to tell you that. So it was a spiritual battle, it was a spiritual warfare, okay, and they were going to, because the dead, the law imbued death in those who were adherents of the law, Judaizers. You understand? So Christ will have to come and to enter into this situation, the Judaism, and to usurp the kingdom, okay, and deliver it to the Father, which does not, involve abdication of his reign. Neither does it deny, Father receiving the kingdom. Okay, so Christ must first of all come to defeat death, okay, which was produced by the law, okay, and to usurp and to take the kingdom from them and to deliver it to the Father, okay, which is not abdication at all, because both of them are going to what? They are now going to reign. They are not going to quit, reigning. So we have to understand that, and we have to know that the reign of Christ has no end. Okay, the reign of Christ has no end. The law was there, the Judaizers was there, and they were being defeated by the gospel. Paul said that, well, I am not ashamed of the gospel because it's the power. Okay, so they were without power. Okay, with that power, which was able to defeat all their enemies. Okay, until the law was destroyed in AD 70. Okay, because the law, the Jerusalem temple was the source of the law. Okay, it was the source of the law. So the destruction of the Jerusalem temple, destroyed the Ark of Covenant, the Ark of Covenant. Okay, so that brought to an end, the law, because Jesus Christ said that, well, until the heaven and earth passes away, the one title or one jot that will not pass, from the law until all are fulfilled. So it was reference, the heaven and earth there was reference to the Jerusalem temple. Um, in Jacob's um, foretelling, what will befall his children. When he got to Judah, he said that, well, you are the lawgiver, okay, and you are going to maintain this scepter. You are going to harbor the scepter until Shiloh, that is Christ, come. You understand? So the authority of Judah, that is the Jerusalem temple, will be taken away from him when Christ returns. Okay, so the return of Christ, brought to an end the law. Okay, but not the cross, as people often try to argue about. Anyway, that is just by the way. So now our last text, and we'll draw curtains down on this text. So First Corinthians, Matthew chapter 25 verse 31 is a parallel verse, okay, to First Corinthians chapter 15 verse 34. It all talks about the coming of Christ to reign, the coming of Christ in His glory, and to sit on the throne, okay, to reign after the defeat of all their enemies. So when you defeat your enemy, you don't quit reigning, but you continue to reign as an undisputable what champion, as it is known in our sporting discipline, especially with boxing. Matthew, sorry, Act chapter, Act chapter 20, Act chapter 2, verse 29. But you can start from maybe verse 25 to, because of time, I have to, hash things out. Now, verse 29 of Act chapter 2, verse 29 to 30 said that, thy men and brethren, let me speak freely to you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, which is, and his tomb is with us to this day. Verse 30, therefore, being a prophet and knowing that God had sworn with an oath to him that of the fruit of his labor, according to the flesh, he will raise up the Christ to sit on his throne. You understand? So this is the time or the beginning of the reign of Christ. Okay, or in connection or at the time when his enemies are what defeated. So he's going to raise a Christ up. It says that he will raise up Christ to sit on his throne. So that is the resurrection, right? That is resurrection. Okay, but this man is going to be in David lineage in terms of flesh. If you read Romans chapter 1, verse 2 and verse 3, verse 4, it also says that Christ has fleshly lineage in the order of David. Or you understand? So he's going to raise up him and sit him on the throne of David. So at that time, when he spoke of this, the apostle Peter said, well, David is dead here. You understand? So the throne of David here is messianic, it's messianic David or prophetic David. You understand? Not the mortal David, but he was talking about Christ in his prophetic, stature or stature. You understand? So according to the flesh, so he will raise him up to sit. Now, the text also says that, well, Christians, those who are going to, abide, in Christ, those who are going to suffer to the end, will also be reigning with Christ, on His throne. Revelation chapter 2 said that the last time in our previous video. So you can consult, you can go to our website or our YouTube channel, and you're going to have that videos and a lot of them on. So we are drawing the curtains here, and to continue with this studies next time. So you just have to subscribe to our YouTube channel. um, Hope fulfilled, and everything is going to be okay. All right, so we end it here. Bye.